Hell's Angels shielded them from a violent gang. Then everything changed. Rain came down in hard, cold sheets, soaking through Maya Carter's thin jacket until it felt like a second skin. Her sneakers slapped against wet gravel as she ran between rows of rusted, abandoned trucks. Each one loomed over her like a sleeping giant, its metal sides streaked with rust and shadows. Eli was pressed tight against her chest, wrapped in the only blanket she'd managed to grab. He was quiet. Too quiet. Maya could feel his tiny heartbeat against her own, fast and fluttering like a bird's wings. "Almost there, buddy," she whispered, though she had no idea where "there" was. She just knew she had to keep moving. Behind her, she heard boots hitting gravel, fast, getting closer. "You can't run forever, girl," a man's voice shouted through the rain. It was rough, mean, laced with a laugh that made her stomach twist. "Give us the bag and we'll let you go." Maya's arms tightened around Eli. The backpack, her mother's backpack, bounced against her back with every step. She didn't know what was inside it. She only knew what her mother had said 3 days before she died, her voice barely a whisper. "Never let them take the backpack, Maya. Promise me. Before you continue listening, please let me know where in the world are you watching from today." Now back to the story she had promised. She would keep that promise even if it killed her. Lightning cracked across the sky, lighting up the truck yard for one bright second. Maya saw them then, 3 shapes moving between the trailers. One was tall and broad. Another moved with a limp but somehow still kept pace. The third carried something in his hand that caught the light. Metal. Sharp. Fear shot through her like electricity. She turned and ran harder, her lungs burning, her legs shaking with every step. She hadn't eaten a real meal in 2 days. She hadn't slept in longer. But none of that mattered right now. Only Eli mattered. Her foot caught on a broken piece of pipe hidden in the mud. She stumbled, twisting her body so she wouldn't crush her baby brother, and landed hard on her side. Pain shot up her arm. She bit back a cry. "Get up," she told herself. "Get up, get up, get up." She pushed herself to her knees, cradling Eli, checking him first before anything else. He whimpered softly, his tiny face scrunched up, but he was okay. She was still shielding him. She had to keep shielding him. Behind her, the footsteps were closer now, close enough that she could hear their breathing, hear the mud sucking at their boots. Maya forced herself up and ran again, her body screaming for her to stop. Ahead, through the curtain of rain, she saw a break in the truck yard fence. Beyond it, the highway stretched out, empty and dark, lit only by a few distant streetlights. If she could reach the road, maybe someone would see her. Maybe someone would help. She pushed through the gap in the fence, feeling the metal scrape against her arm, and stumbled onto the shoulder of the highway. Her legs finally gave out beneath her. She dropped to her knees on the wet pavement, gasping, holding Eli against her as tightly as she could without hurting him. "Please," she whispered into the storm. "Please, someone help us." That's when she heard it. A low rumble, growing louder, cutting through the sound of the rain. Headlights swept across the highway, and a motorcycle roared into view, its engine growling like a beast against the night. Maya's head snapped up. She saw a big man on the bike, wearing a leather jacket, his face hard and unreadable in the darkness. He rode fast, closer, closer. Behind her, the 3 men from the truck yard burst through the fence, breathing hard, their eyes locking onto her with a hunger that made her blood run cold. "There's nowhere left to run," the tall one snarled. Maya looked at the motorcycle, then at the men closing in, then down at Eli's small, trusting face. Her arms trembled, not just from exhaustion now, but from something else, a tiny, fragile hope, flickering like a candle in the storm. The motorcycle skidded to a stop just feet away, gravel and rainwater spraying from its tires. Jack Mercer had been thinking about closing time all night. His shop, Mercer's Motorcycle Repair, sat quiet behind him, its lights turned off, its doors locked. He was tired. His back ached from bending over engines all day, and all he wanted was a hot meal and his own bed. He should have taken the back road home, the one that cut through town and avoided the highway altogether. But some old habit he could not name, made him take the long way instead. Maybe it was the rain. Maybe it was just luck. Whatever it was, it put him on that stretch of highway at exactly the wrong moment, or the exactly right one. Through the sheets of rain, his headlight caught a shape on the road ahead. A girl, soaked to the bone, stumbling forward with something clutched against her chest. Jack squinted, slowing his bike. His first thought was that she was hurt, maybe in an accident. His second thought, the one that made his stomach drop, was that she was running from something. Jack had spent 20 years around danger. He knew what fear looked like on a person's face, even from a distance, even in the dark. And this girl's face was pure terror. He almost kept riding. He told himself it was not his business. He had made a promise to himself years ago, after he lost everything that mattered, that he would stay away from trouble. Trouble had already taken so much from him. He did not need more of it. But then he saw the fence break open behind her, and 3 men come crashing through it, and he saw the way the girl looked back at them like she was looking at death itself. Jack's hands moved before his mind caught up. He twisted the throttle and shot forward, closing the distance between himself and the girl in seconds. He skidded to a stop, gravel and water spraying from his tires, close enough that he could see her clearly now. She could not have been more than 17. And in her arms, wrapped in a soaked blanket, was a baby. A tiny, fragile newborn. "There's nowhere left to run," one of the men shouted, his voice thick with menace. Jack's jaw tightened. He looked at the girl's face, at the raw fear in her eyes, and something inside him cracked open. He thought of his own daughter, gone now for years, and how he had failed to protect her when it mattered most. He was not going to fail this girl, too. "Get on," Jack said, his voice low and rough but steady. "Now." Maya hesitated only a second before scrambling toward him. Jack reached out and pulled her onto the back of the bike, careful not to jostle the baby. He gunned the engine and tore off the highway, cutting hard into the truck yard, weaving between the rusted trailers. The 3 men shouted behind them, but Jack did not look back. He needed a place to hide, somewhere the girl and the baby would be safe. His eyes caught sight of an old semi-truck trailer sitting crooked on flat tires, half buried in shadows near the back of the yard. He steered the bike toward it and killed the engine, letting momentum carry them the last few feet. "Under here," he said, already swinging off the bike. "Quick." Maya did not argue. She dropped to her knees, cradling Eli against her chest, and crawled beneath the trailer into the darkness. Jack followed right behind her, ducking low, his large frame barely fitting in the tight space. The mud was cold and thick beneath them. Jack positioned himself between Maya and the open side of the trailer, covering her body and the baby's with his own. His heart pounded hard in his chest, not from fear, but from the weight of what he was doing. He was choosing this. He was choosing them. "Stay quiet," he whispered. "Don't move." Maya nodded, pressing her face against Eli's head, trying to keep him silent. Jack held his breath, listening as the footsteps of the gang grew louder, splashing through puddles just outside the trailer. He tensed every muscle in his body, ready to fight if it came to that, ready to protect them no matter the cost. The footsteps stopped just feet away. A boot splashed in a puddle right beside Jack's shoulder. He could see it through the gap under the trailer, close enough to touch. Water dripped from the man's jeans, and Jack held perfectly still, his arm wrapped tight around Maya and the baby, his whole body a wall between them and the world. "She couldn't have gone far," a voice said above them. "Check the trailers." Another voice, rougher, closer. "Waste of time. She's probably passed out somewhere in this rain." Jack felt Maya's body shaking against him. He gave her shoulder a small squeeze, a silent message. "Stay still. I've got you." Eli stirred, a tiny whimper escaping his lips, and Maya pressed her face down against him, muffling the sound with her own body. The boots moved, then stopped. Then, after a moment that stretched like an hour, they moved again, splashing away toward the far end of the yard. Voices faded into the rain until there was nothing left but the sound of water dripping off rusted metal. Jack did not move for a long time. He counted the seconds, waiting, listening. When he was sure, truly sure, he let out a slow breath and shifted his weight off Maya. "They're gone," he whispered. "We're okay." Maya lifted her head. Her eyes were wide, red-rimmed, disbelieving. She looked at Eli first, checking him, then looked at Jack like she was seeing him for the first time. A man covered in mud, his leather vest soaked through, his face lined with worry that had nothing to do with himself. "Come on," Jack said gently. "Let's get you both somewhere warm." He helped her crawl out from under the trailer, careful of Eli, careful of her. She was shivering so hard her teeth chattered. Jack shrugged off his jacket, still warm from his own body, and wrapped it around her shoulders before helping her onto the back of his bike. The ride to the shop was short, but Maya held on tight the whole way, one arm around Jack's waist, the other cradling Eli against her chest. When they pulled up to Mercer's motorcycle repair, the metal shutters were down, but light spilled out from underneath the garage door. Jack knocked twice, then let himself in. Maya froze the moment she stepped inside. 5 men sat around a table near the back, all of them big, all of them covered in leather and ink, exactly the kind of men her mother used to warn her about. One had a beard down to his chest. Another had scars across his knuckles. Maya's stomach dropped. She took a step back, pulling Eli closer, her mind screaming that she had traded one danger for another. "Jack?" the bearded one said, standing up fast. "What happened to you? You're soaked." "Found some trouble," Jack said. "This is Maya, and this is Eli." He looked around at his brothers. "They need help." Maya braced herself, waiting for annoyance, waiting for questions, waiting for someone to tell her to leave. Instead, the bearded man, whose name she would later learn was Big Tom, moved fast. He grabbed a folded blanket off a shelf and crossed the room in 3 strides. "Here," he said, voice soft despite his size. "Wrap the baby up first. He's shaking." Another man, thinner, with tattoos climbing up his neck, disappeared into a back room and came out with a plastic bag from a convenience store. Inside were diapers, a can of formula, a small bottle. "Ran out earlier from my nephew," he explained, setting it on the table. "Didn't get to drop it off yet. Take it." Maya stared at them, stunned. These were not the men her mother had described in hushed, frightened voices. These were not monsters. Someone pulled a chair close to a space heater and gently guided her into it. Someone else pressed a warm mug of something into her hands, tea or cocoa. She could not tell through her shaking fingers. Big Tom took Eli ever so carefully and wrapped him in the blanket, rocking him with the kind of practiced ease that surprised her. Maya watched all of it happen around her. Warmth and blankets and quiet voices asking if she was hungry, if she was cold, if she needed anything at all. And something inside her, something she had been holding together with sheer will since the night her mother died, finally broke. Tears spilled down her face, fast and unstoppable. She had been so strong for so long, carrying Eli, carrying her mother's last words, carrying the terror of the chase alone in her chest. Now, surrounded by strangers who should have frightened her, she felt something she had not felt in weeks. Safe. Morning light came through the garage's small windows, cutting thin gray lines across the concrete floor. Maya woke up on a cot someone had set up for her near the space heater, and for one confused second, she forgot where she was. Then she heard Eli's soft breathing beside her in a makeshift crib made from a dresser drawer, and everything came rushing back. She sat up slowly. Her whole body ached. Across the garage, Jack stood by a workbench, drinking coffee from a chipped mug, watching the door like he expected trouble to walk through at any minute. "Morning," he said, his voice low and rough with sleep. "You hungry? Tom left some eggs on the stove." Maya shook her head. Food was the last thing on her mind. She looked down at Eli, then back up at Jack, and she knew she owed him something. He had risked his life for her without asking a single question. She could not keep hiding the truth from him now. "I need to tell you something," she said. Jack set down his mug and pulled a stool closer, sitting so he was at her eye level instead of towering over her. "I'm listening." Maya's fingers found the strap of the backpack, the same backpack she had carried through the rain, through the truck yard, through every terrifying moment of the last 3 days. She held it against her chest like it was part of her own body. "This is why they're chasing me," she said. "The backpack. My mom gave it to me right before she died. She made me promise that I would never let anyone take it. Not the gang, not anyone." Jack's eyes moved to the bag, then back to her face. "You know what's inside?" Maya shook her head. Her voice cracked. "I never opened it. She told me not to look, just to protect it. She said it was important, that it would keep Eli safe. I didn't understand what that meant. I still don't." "You carried something for 3 days and you don't even know what it is?" "She was dying, Jack." Maya's eyes filled with tears again, but she pushed through, needing him to understand. "She was so weak, she could barely talk. All she said was, 'Never let them take the backpack. Protect your brother,' and then she was gone. I didn't have time to ask questions. I just ran." Jack was quiet for a long moment. Big Tom had come up behind him, along with 2 other club members, all of them listening now, their faces serious. "The men chasing you," Jack said carefully. "They kept saying something belonged to them. You have any idea what they meant?" "No," Maya whispered. "I swear I don't. I thought maybe drugs, or money they think my mom stole. I don't know. I was too scared to think about it. I just knew I couldn't let them get it." Jack looked at the backpack again, then at Maya's exhausted, frightened face. "I think it's time we find out what's inside. Not because I don't trust you, because you deserve to know what your mother was protecting. And so does he." He nodded toward Eli. Maya's hands trembled as she loosened her grip on the strap for the first time in days. Slowly, she held the backpack out to Jack. He took it gently, like it might break, and set it on the workbench. The zipper stuck a little from the rain, but he worked it open with careful fingers, the whole garage falling silent around him. Inside were folded papers, worn soft from handling. Jack lifted them out one at a time. The first was a stack of hospital records, Eli's name printed at the top. The second was a folder marked with a bank's logo, showing a savings account with a balance that made Big Tom whistle low under his breath. The third was a letter, handwritten, the ink slightly smudged. Jack unfolded the medical papers first, scanning the words. His face changed, confusion melting into something softer. "Maya," he said quietly, "this isn't drugs. This isn't stolen money." He held up the hospital record so she could see. "Your brother has a heart condition, a serious one. But it says here, it's treatable. Your mom was saving up for his surgery." Maya stared at the papers in Jack's hands. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She had carried this backpack for 3 days, through rain and fear and running, and the whole time it had held her brother's life inside it. "A heart condition," she finally repeated. Her voice was barely a whisper. Is he going to be okay?" Jack's eyes moved back down to the papers. He was not a doctor. He did not understand all the medical words printed on the page. But he understood enough. "It says treatable. That's a good word, Maya. That means there's a fix. There's a surgery." Big Tom leaned over Jack's shoulder, squinting at the folder with the bank logo. "That account," he said, his voice low. "There's real money in there. Enough to cover a surgery like that." Jack opened the folder wider so Maya could see the numbers herself. Her eyes went wide. It was more money than she had ever seen in her whole life. More than she thought her mother had ever earned working double shifts at the diner. More than she thought existed in their small, cramped apartment where the heat never worked right in winter. "She never told me," Maya said. Her hands were shaking now, not from fear, but from something else. Something that felt like grief and love tangled together. "She never said anything about saving money. She was always so tired. She worked so much. I thought we were barely getting by." "Sometimes," Jack said quietly, "parents carry things alone so their kids don't have to carry the weight of it." Maya's eyes fell to the last item still sitting on the workbench. The letter. Her mother's handwriting curled across the front, faded but still readable. For Maya. Her fingers hovered over it. She looked up at Jack, unsure if she could do this in front of everyone. Jack understood without her saying a word. He nodded to Tom and the others, and slowly the garage cleared out, the bikers stepping back to give her space, though none of them went far. Jack stayed close, but he turned his body slightly away, giving her privacy even while staying near enough that she would not be alone. Maya picked up the letter. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. The paper was soft, worn from being folded and unfolded many times, like her mother had written it long before she got sick, keeping it ready. She began to read. "My sweet girl. If you are reading this, then I am not there anymore, and I am so sorry for that. I need you to know none of this is your fault. You have always been strong, stronger than you know, and I need that strength now more than ever. I have been saving for a long time, every extra dollar, every tip, every bit I could hide away. It was all for Eli. The doctors told me about his heart when he was born, and I promised myself I would find a way to fix it, no matter what it took. I know I am asking too much of you. You are still just a girl yourself, and now I am asking you to be a mother to your brother. But I trust you, Maya. I have always trusted you. You have a heart bigger than anyone I have ever known, and I know you will protect him the way I would if I could. Do not let anyone take this money. Do not let anyone tell you that you cannot do this. You can. You already have, just by getting this far. I love you more than anything in this world. Take care of your brother. Let good people help you when you need it. You do not have to do this alone. Love, Mom. Maya's tears fell onto the page, blurring some of the ink, but she did not stop reading until the very end. When she finally lowered the letter, her whole body shook with quiet sobs. Jack knelt beside her, not saying anything at first, just letting her cry. When she finally looked up at him, her eyes red and swollen, he reached out and gently took her hand. "Maya," he said, his voice steady and sure. "I promise you that money is not going anywhere. Not to Victor, not to anyone who wants to hurt you or your brother. We are going to protect it, and we are going to get Eli the surgery he needs." Maya searched his face, looking for any sign that he might be saying words just to comfort her. But there was none. Only certainty. "You mean that?" she whispered. "I mean every word," Jack said. "Your mother trusted you to protect him. Now you don't have to do it by yourself anymore." The morning sun came in through the garage windows, cutting through the dust in the air like thin gold ribbons. Jack had not slept much. He had spent most of the night sitting at his workbench, turning his phone over in his hands, thinking about the call he needed to make. At 7 o'clock, he finally dialed the number. "Sarah Whitmore," a woman's voice answered, calm and clear. "Sarah, it's Jack Mercer. I need your help. It's important." There was a pause on the other end, then the sound of papers shuffling. "Jack? It's been a while. What's going on?" Jack told her everything. He kept his voice low so Maya, who was asleep on the old couch in the back office with Eli in a laundry basket lined with blankets, would not wake up. He told Sarah about the truck yard, about the gang, about the backpack and the letter, and the money meant for surgery. He told her about Victor. Sarah listened without interrupting. When Jack finished, she was quiet for a moment. "This is a lot, Jack. But you did the right thing calling me. I can help. I need to meet them today." By 10 in the morning, Sarah Whitmore stood in the doorway of Jack's garage. She was a tall woman with kind eyes and a firm handshake, dressed simply in a blue blazer that looked out of place among the motorcycles and toolboxes. Maya watched her carefully from the couch, Eli cradled against her chest. "Hi, Maya," Sarah said gently, kneeling down so she was at eye level. "My name is Sarah. Jack tells me you have been taking very good care of your brother." Maya's grip on Eli tightened slightly. "Are you going to take him away from me?" "No," Sarah said firmly. "That is not why I am here. I am here to help you keep him safe. Legally. So no one, especially not Victor, can take him from you." Over the next few hours, Sarah worked at the small table in the garage office, filling out forms, making calls, and explaining things slowly so Maya could understand every step. She explained temporary guardianship. She explained how the police could use the letter and bank documents as evidence against Victor. She explained that a judge would need to approve everything, but that with Jack's support, and with proof of what Maya's mother had wanted, the process could move quickly. "You are not alone in this," Sarah told her. "There are people whose whole job is to help kids like you. I am one of them." Maya listened to every word, but her eyes kept drifting to Eli. "None of that matters if his heart doesn't get fixed," she whispered. Sarah nodded. "That is the next step. I already called a children's hospital this morning. They have a cardiologist named Dr. Patel who specializes in cases like Eli's. I have an appointment set up for this afternoon." The hospital was bright and busy, full of quiet voices and squeaking shoes on clean floors. Maya sat in the waiting room holding Eli, while Jack stood beside her, arms crossed, trying to look calm, even though his knee bounced with worry. Sarah sat on Maya's other side, a steady presence, When Dr. Patel finally called them back, Maya's hands were shaking again. The doctor was a small woman with silver glasses and a gentle smile. She examined Eli carefully, listening to his heart with her stethoscope, checking machines that beeped softly beside his tiny body. After what felt like forever, Dr. Patel looked up. The hole in his heart is significant, but it is exactly the kind of condition we can repair. With surgery, Eli has an excellent chance of living a full, healthy life. Maya's breath caught in her throat. He's going to be okay. He is going to be okay, Dr. Patel said. We will need to schedule the procedure soon, but this is very treatable. Your mother's medical fund will cover everything he needs. Maya broke down right there in the exam room, tears streaming down her face. But this time they were different tears, not tears of fear, tears of relief. That night, back at the garage, Maya lay on the couch with Eli sleeping soundly beside her in his blanket-lined basket. For the first time since her mother died, her body finally let go of the tension it had been holding for days. Her eyes grew heavy, her breathing slowed, and sleep came easily, deep and peaceful, wrapping around her like a warm blanket she had not felt in a very long time. The next morning brought a knock at the garage door that made Jack's stomach tighten. 2 police officers stood outside, one older with gray at his temples, the other younger and quiet, holding a small notebook. Mr. Mercer? I'm Detective Ruiz. This is Officer Ford. We need to talk about the girl and the baby you called in about. Jack led them inside, careful to keep his voice low. Maya was still asleep with Eli in the back office, and he wanted to keep it that way as long as he could. Detective Ruiz set a folder on the workbench and opened it. Inside were photographs, printed emails, and copies of bank statements. We pulled everything we could from the documents Sarah Whitmore sent over. It took some digging, but we found our man. He slid a photograph across the table. Jack looked down at the face of a man in his 40s, sharp jaw, cold eyes, the kind of smile that did not reach past his teeth. Victor Hale, Ruiz said. He has priors, fraud, assault, a few things that never stuck because witnesses got scared and backed out at the last minute. He is smart. He knows how to stay just far enough from the mess so his hands look clean. Jack stared at the photograph. What's his connection to Maya? Ruiz leaned back. This is where it gets complicated. Victor was in a relationship with Maya's mother, Denise, a few years back, long before Eli was born. From what we can tell, Denise helped him get out of some serious trouble, testified on his behalf once, even let him stay with her and Maya for a while when he had nowhere else to go. Jack felt something cold settle in his chest. So this isn't a stranger. This is somebody who knew this family, somebody Maya probably called by his first name. That's right, Ruiz said, and it looks like Denise cut him off completely after he tried to pull her into one of his schemes. But he never really let go. When she passed, and word got around about the money she left for Eli's surgery, Victor saw an opportunity. He convinced some local guys to help him track down Maya, made it sound like she owed him something, told them she stole from him. Jack's jaw tightened. She's 17. She's got a newborn brother with a hole in his heart, and he's hunting her over money that was never his. That's the ugly truth of it, Ruiz said. Right now we don't have enough to arrest him. We have suspicion. We have testimony starting to come together, but Victor is careful. He never shows up himself. He sends others to do the dirty work. Officer Ford spoke for the first time. We're building the case. It just takes time. Jack nodded slowly, but the knot in his stomach did not loosen. Time was something Maya did not have much of. Eli's surgery was coming, and Jack knew a man like Victor would not simply wait around while the walls closed in on him. After the officers left, Jack sat alone at his workbench for a long while, staring at his phone. He thought about waking Maya to tell her everything, but he decided against it. Not yet. Not until he had to. That decision did not last long. Just past noon, his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Jack's hand hovered over it before he finally opened it. "I know where she's hiding, Jack. Nice little garage you got there. Tell Maya she has something that belongs to me. That money was supposed to be mine. She has until tomorrow night to hand it over, or I take the boy instead. Your call how this ends." Jack read the message twice. Then a third time. His jaw clenched so tight it ached. His thumb hovered over the screen, fury and fear tangled together in his chest. He looked toward the back office, where Maya slept peacefully with Eli curled against her, unaware that the danger she thought was finally behind her had just found its way to their front door. Jack set the phone down on the workbench, his hands trembling with anger he had not felt in years. Whatever peace they had found in the last 2 days was over. Victor Hale was coming. And this time, Jack knew hiding would not be enough. Jack picked up his phone and made 3 calls before the sun dropped behind the hills. The first call was to Detective Ruiz, letting him know about the message from Victor. Ruiz told him to save it, screenshot it, and not respond. "Don't poke the bear," he said. "We're close. Give us a little more time." The second call was to Sarah Whitmore, who promised to come by first thing in the morning with paperwork that might help speed up Maya's guardianship process. The third call was to Big Tom, the club's president, a giant of a man with a beard like a bramble bush and hands the size of dinner plates. Jack told him everything. The threat. The gang. The baby with a bad heart. Big Tom listened without saying a word, and when Jack finished, all he said was, "We'll be there in 20 minutes." He was not exaggerating. By the time the sun had fully set, the garage looked like a different place. 6 motorcycles lined up outside like sentries. Inside, men who most people crossed the street to avoid were carrying blankets, folding chairs, and grocery bags through the front door. Rooster, a wiry man with tattoos climbing up his neck, set up an old crib in the corner of the office that he had fixed with his own hands the day before. Big Tom brought a space heater because the nights were getting cold. Diesel, the youngest of the group at 30, showed up with bags of baby formula and diapers, embarrassed when Jack asked how he knew what size to get. "My sister's got 3 kids," Diesel muttered. "I know things." Maya woke to the sound of boots on concrete and voices low and rough, and for a moment her whole body went stiff with fear. She sat up fast, pulling Eli against her chest, eyes wide and searching for the nearest door. Jack was there before she could bolt. He crouched down slow, hands open, the way you would approach a spooked animal. "It's all right," he said. "These are my brothers. They're not here to hurt you. They're here to help." Maya's eyes darted past him to the men filling the garage. Big men, scarred men, men with leather vests and hard faces. Everything about them looked like the danger she had been running from. But then she saw what they were actually doing. Rooster was on his knees, tightening a bolt on the crib, checking it twice to make sure it would not wobble. Diesel was quietly stacking cans of baby formula on a shelf, arranging them by size like it mattered to him that they be neat. An older biker named Preacher, gray-haired and quiet, was folding a blanket into a perfect square and setting it at the end of a cot someone had dragged in from a back room. None of them looked at her the way the men in the truck yard had looked at her. None of them looked at her like she was something to be hunted. "Why?" she whispered, mostly to herself. Jack heard her anyway. "Because that's my brother right there," he said, nodding toward Rooster. "And that one. And that one. We look after our own. And far as I'm concerned, you and Eli are ours now, too." Maya did not know what to say to that. She had spent years being told to be afraid of men like this. Teachers had warned her. Neighbors had crossed streets. The news painted them as trouble, nothing more. But here they were, tightening bolts and stacking diapers and speaking in careful, quiet voices, so they would not wake a baby they had known for less than 2 days. She looked down at Eli, sleeping peacefully despite the chaos of new voices and boots and the smell of motor oil that clung to everything in the garage. He did not seem afraid at all. Maybe, Maya thought, that was because he trusted these strange, tattooed men in a way she had not let herself yet. Jack sat down on the floor across from her, his back against the wall, watching his club work. There was something settling in his chest that he had not let himself feel in a long time. For years, he had told himself he was too broken to matter to anyone, too full of old mistakes to be trusted with something soft and small and worth protecting. But watching Rooster check that crib for the 3rd time, watching Diesel fuss over formula cans, watching his own hands rest steady and sure near Maya's shoulder, Jack understood something new. Maybe protecting people was not something he had lost the right to do. Maybe it was the only thing he had left that mattered. Days passed in a rhythm Maya had never known before. Slow, safe, steady. Eli went to the hospital every other day for tests. Doctors in clean coats checked his tiny heart with machines that beeped and hummed. They said words like arrhythmia and surgical window that Maya did not fully understand, but she learned to watch their faces instead of just their words. When the doctors smiled, she let herself breathe. The garage had become something like a home. Rooster had strung up a curtain to give Maya and Eli some privacy in the corner where the crib sat. Preacher brought over a rocking chair from his own house, saying his wife did not need 2 of them anymore. Diesel taught Maya how to check the oil in a bike, mostly because she asked, and it gave her something to do with her hands besides worry. But most of her time was spent with Jack. He drove her to the hospital in his truck, sat with her in waiting rooms that smelled like hand sanitizer and old coffee, and waited outside during appointments so she would not feel alone. He brought her food she did not have to ask for. He taught her how to change the oil filter on an old Harley just to give her something to focus on, besides fear. Maya noticed things about him the way she noticed things about everyone. She had learned young how to read a room, how to read a face, how to know when danger was coming before it arrived. Jack was easy to read in some ways. Steady hands, kind eyes. A laugh that came easy when Eli grabbed his finger and would not let go. But there was a wall in him too. A door that stayed shut no matter how close she got. Whenever she asked about his life before the club, before the garage, he would find a reason to change the subject. A bolt that needed tightening. A phone call he suddenly remembered to make. Once, she asked if he had ever been married, and he went so quiet the silence felt like its own answer. He said, "That was a long time ago," and picked up a wrench like it was the most urgent thing in the world. Maya let it go at first. She understood better than most people that everyone carried things they did not want to open up and look at. She had her own drawer of things she kept shut too. But one evening, about a week after they arrived at the garage, she found him sitting alone on the back step, looking out at the sunset with a photograph in his hand. She almost turned back inside, but something made her sit down beside him instead. "You don't have to tell me," she said quietly. "But you don't have to carry it by yourself either." Jack looked at the photograph for a long moment. It was worn at the edges, like it had been held 1,000 times. "Her name was Anna," he said finally. "My wife. And this is Lily, our daughter. She was 4. Maya did not say anything. She just waited. "There was an accident," Jack said, his voice rougher than she had ever heard it. "Years ago, I was riding with the club, doing things I'm not proud of. Anna was driving to meet me when a truck ran a light. She didn't make it. Lily didn't either." The words hung in the air between them, heavy and old. "I told myself after that I didn't get to have a family again," Jack said. "Not after what my choices cost them. I figured the least I could do was stop pretending I deserved anything soft in my life." Maya looked at him. Really looked at him, the way she looked at doctors when she needed to know the truth. "You didn't hide us under a truck because you don't deserve a family," she said. "You did it because you know exactly what it costs to lose one. That's not the same as being broken, Jack. That's what changed people look like." Jack's throat tightened. He stared at the photograph, then at Maya, then out at the darkening sky. "You saved us," she said, "not because you had to, because some part of you still believed you could." The message came in at 11:42 at night. Maya's phone buzzed on the small table beside the crib, and she almost did not look at it. She thought it might be Sarah checking in like she always did before bed. But when she picked it up, the number was one she did not know. She read it twice before her stomach dropped. "I know where you are. Give me access to the account by Friday or I take the kid. You know I can do it. You know what I'm capable of. This is your last easy way out." Her hand started shaking so hard she almost dropped the phone. Eli stirred in his crib, making a small sound, and Maya froze, afraid her fear would somehow wake him up all the way and he would feel it too. She did not sleep the rest of the night. She sat in the rocking chair Preacher had brought over, holding her phone, reading the message over and over like it might change if she stared at it long enough. In the morning, she showed Jack. His face changed the second he read it. Not fear, something harder, something Maya had not seen on him before, like a door slamming shut and a different Jack stepping out from behind it. The Jack who used to ride with men who did bad things, the Jack who knew how to handle trouble because he had been trouble once. "He's not getting near either of you," Jack said. His voice was low and even, but there was steel under it. "Not while I'm breathing." By that afternoon, the garage had changed. Diesel welded new locks onto the side doors. Rooster climbed up on the roof and installed 2 cameras, one facing the parking lot and one facing the back alley where the dumpsters sat. Preacher started keeping a baseball bat by the front counter, though everyone knew he had other things stashed closer that were a lot more serious than a bat. Jack himself barely left Maya's side. He walked her to the bathroom door and waited outside like a shadow. He sat up most nights on an old couch near the crib. Not really sleeping, just listening. When Eli cried in the middle of the night, Jack was sometimes the one who got there first, scooping the baby up with hands that looked too big and too rough to be so gentle, whispering things Maya could not quite hear. She watched him do it one night from the doorway, half asleep herself, and something in her chest ached in a way she did not understand. "You don't have to do all this," she told him the next morning, watching him check the new locks for the 3rd time. "You've already done so much." Jack did not look up from the lock he was testing. "You think I'm doing this because I have to?" Maya did not answer right away. "I'm doing it because I want to," Jack said. "There's a difference." That evening, Victor sent another message. This one was worse. He mentioned Eli by name. He mentioned the hospital, the appointments, the doctors. He wanted Maya to know he had been watching, that he knew things about her life that made her feel sick to her stomach. She showed Jack again, and this time he did not just get quiet. He picked up his own phone and made 3 calls, one to Sarah, one to a man named Frank who used to be a cop before he retired and started fixing engines for the club instead, and one to someone Maya did not know at all, someone Jack only called an old friend who owes me a favor. Maya sat on the couch that night watching him work, watching him move through the garage, checking windows, checking locks, checking on Eli, checking on her like some kind of steady machine that never stopped, never wavered, never once made her feel like she was extra weight he was tired of carrying. She thought about her own father, a man she barely remembered, who had left before she was old enough to hold on to any real memory of him. She thought about all the nights she had wished someone would notice her, would step in front of her and say, "Not her, not on my watch." Watching Jack move through the garage like a man guarding something sacred, checking every lock twice, sitting up all night just so she and Eli could sleep, Maya understood something she had not let herself believe before. This was not just a man protecting her from danger. This was what having a father was supposed to feel like. The shadow moved along the fence line just after 9 o'clock, when the sky had gone that deep purple color that comes right before full dark. Rooster saw it first on the camera feed. He was sitting at the front counter with a cup of coffee gone cold hours ago, watching the little black and white screen the way he watched everything now, careful and steady. The shape by the back fence made him sit up straight. "Jack," he called out, not loud, but enough. "We got somebody out back." Jack was there in 3 seconds flat. He had been in the back room where Eli's crib sat, and Maya swore she never heard him move that fast before, but now he was standing behind Rooster's shoulder, staring at the grainy image of a young man crouched near the dumpsters, looking around like he was scared of his own shadow. "That's not Victor," Jack said quietly. "Too small, too young." "Could still be one of his," Preacher said. He had come up from the garage floor with a wrench still in his hand, like he had forgotten to put it down. "Victor's got kids running errands for him all the time. Kids who don't know better." Jack's jaw tightened. He thought about Maya asleep in the back room, and Eli in his crib, and the message that had come through just that morning. "You know what I'm capable of." "Everybody get ready," Jack said. "But nobody does anything unless I say so. We don't know who this is yet." Diesel grabbed the bat from behind the counter. Rooster stayed glued to the screen. Preacher moved towards the side door, quiet as a man twice his age had any right to be. Jack walked to the front, his boots heavy on the concrete floor, his heart pounding but his face calm as still water. He opened the door just enough to slip through it, stepping out into the cool night air alone. The young man near the dumpsters froze the second he saw Jack's shape in the doorway. He looked maybe 17, 18 at most, skinny, nervous, wearing a jacket 2 sizes too big, like it belonged to somebody else. His hands were shaking, and when he saw Jack's size, his whole body seemed to shrink smaller. "Whoa, hey, I ain't here for trouble," the kid said fast, holding both hands up. "I swear, man, I just need to talk. Please." "Who are you?" Jack said. It was not a question. It was a demand, low and even, the same voice he used to use back when trouble followed him everywhere he went. "My name's Tyler," the kid said. "Tyler Brooks. I know you don't know me, but I know you. I mean, I know about you and the girl. Maya." Jack's whole body went rigid. His hand moved slightly toward his side, an old habit from an old life. "Talk fast," Jack said, "and don't move." Tyler swallowed hard. His eyes were wet, like he was fighting something down deep inside himself. Something that had been sitting there a long time. "I was one of the guys chasing her," he said. "That night, in the truck yard. I was there. I had a job to do and I did it, because that's what you do when Victor tells you to do something. But I couldn't sleep after. Not one night since." Jack said nothing, watching him carefully, waiting. "See, there's this thing," Tyler said, his voice cracking. "Couple years back, my little sister Grace. She was at the community pool. She wasn't a good swimmer. Nobody was watching her close enough, and she went under. And I wasn't there. I was off somewhere being stupid with my friends. And this girl I didn't even know, she jumped in and pulled her out, saved her life, right there in front of everybody. His breath caught, and for a second, he could not keep talking. That girl was Maya, Tyler said. Maya Carter. I didn't even put it together until I saw her running that night, until I saw her face up close in the flashlight. She saved my sister's life, and I was out there hunting her like an animal. He wiped his face with the back of his sleeve, ashamed, unable to look Jack in the eye anymore. She saved my family, Tyler said, his voice breaking apart, and I was helping the man trying to destroy hers. Jack stood there for a long moment, letting the silence stretch out between them. The night air was cool against his skin, but inside his chest, something hot was building. Not anger, not yet. Something closer to understanding. Keep going, Jack said. Tyler nodded, wiping his nose with the back of his sleeve. Victor didn't tell us the truth. Not the whole truth, anyway. He said Maya's mom owed him money, said she stole from him before she died, and that Maya was holding on to it, hiding it in that backpack. He made it sound like we were just collecting a debt, like it was business. But that's not what it was, Jack said. No, sir. Tyler shook his head hard. I didn't find out the real reason until after that night. Victor got sloppy. He was talking to one of the older guys, Dominic, thinking I wasn't close enough to hear. He was laughing about it, said there was no debt, said Maya's mom set up some account for the baby's surgery, some medical fund, and Victor figured since he used to date her, he had a right to it. Called it his money, like he earned it just by knowing her. Jack's hands curled into fists at his sides, but he kept his voice level. He's been chasing a sick baby's surgery money. Yes, sir. Tyler's voice dropped even lower. And he ain't gonna stop. He's got people everywhere, Mr. Mercer. People who owe him favors, people who are scared of him. That's how the whole thing works. Nobody says no to Victor Hale. Jack studied the kid's face, the way his eyes kept darting toward the shadows like he expected somebody to jump out any second. This was not a kid pretending. This was a kid who had been carrying something heavy for a long time and finally could not carry it anymore. You said you know things, Jack said. What kind of things? Tyler reached slowly into his oversized jacket, moving careful and deliberate so Jack would not think he was reaching for a weapon. He pulled out a folded piece of paper, worn soft at the creases like it had been unfolded and refolded 100 times. I wrote down dates, Tyler said, handing it over. Times Victor met with people. Money that changed hands. There's a guy who works for him, does his books, keeps records because Victor's too paranoid to trust computers. I got pictures on my phone too. Bank slips. Text messages where Victor talks about the fund like it's already his. Jack took the paper, unfolding it carefully under the dim light spilling from the shop windows. Names, numbers, dates that lined up close to when Maya's mother had passed. This is real, Jack said quietly. It's real, Tyler said, but there's something else you need to know. Something worse. Jack looked up. Victor's got somebody on the inside, Tyler said. Police. I don't know who, not for sure, but I heard him bragging about it once. Said he always knows when the cops are getting close. Said somebody keeps him warned. He's been staying 2 steps ahead of everybody for years because of it. Jack felt his stomach drop. Sarah had been working with the local department, feeding them everything Jack's club had gathered. If Victor had eyes inside that building, everything they had built to protect Maya could come apart in an instant. You willing to say all this to the police? Jack asked. Not just hand me a paper in the dark. Actually stand up and say it in front of people where it counts. Tyler's jaw tightened, and for a second Jack thought he might turn and run. I've been scared my whole life, Tyler said. Scared of my old man, scared of Victor, scared of ending up nothing like everybody always told me I'd be. But Maya wasn't scared that day at the pool. She didn't know my sister, didn't know her nothing. She just jumped in. He looked up, eyes steady now. I owe her that same thing. I'll testify, whatever it takes. Jack studied him a moment longer, then held out his hand. Tyler stared at it like he was not sure he deserved to take it, then reached out and shook it firm. Come inside, Jack said. Let's get you somewhere safe, and let's figure out how we bring this whole thing down. Monday morning came gray and soft, with a light rain tapping against the windows of the repair shop. Maya stood by the door in a borrowed jacket, her backpack, a new one, plain and blue, nothing like the one that had been destroyed, hanging off one shoulder. She had not been to school in almost 3 weeks. You don't have to go today, Sarah said gently, standing beside her with a folder of paperwork tucked under her arm. We can wait until things settle more. No. Maya shook her head, her jaw tight the same way it got whenever she made up her mind about something. I want to go. I need something normal again. Jack watched from across the garage, wiping grease off his hands with a rag he had used so many times it barely helped anymore. He did not say anything. He just nodded once, the way he did when he wanted someone to know he believed in them without making a big speech about it. Sarah drove Maya to school that morning, and Rebecca stayed behind at the shop to help watch Eli. The baby had been sleeping better since his surgery had been rescheduled and the medical paperwork straightened out. His color looked better too, pinker in the cheeks, stronger in his little grip when he wrapped his fingers around Jack's thumb. That afternoon, when Maya came back through the shop doors, her shoulders looked lighter than they had in weeks. Bear, one of the older club members with a beard down to his chest and tattoos covering both arms, looked up from the motorcycle he was fixing. How was it, kid? He asked. Weird, Maya admitted, setting her backpack down on the workbench. Everybody kept asking where I've been. I didn't know what to say. You say whatever you want to say, Jack told her, walking over. Or nothing at all. Ain't nobody's business but yours? Maya managed a small smile at that. The days after fell into something like a rhythm. Maya went to school in the mornings. In the afternoons, she came back to the shop, where the bikers had somehow turned half the garage into a soft, cluttered nursery corner for Eli, complete with a second-hand crib that Cutter had sanded down and repainted a pale yellow, and a mobile that Diesel had built out of old motorcycle parts, tiny gears and bolts spinning slowly above the baby's head. Maya did her homework at the same workbench, where the men rebuilt engines, math problems scattered next to wrenches and oil rags. Sometimes one of the bikers would lean over her shoulder, squinting at the numbers like he might actually understand algebra, before shaking his head and saying something like, "You're on your own with that one, sweetheart." It made her laugh. Real laughter, the kind that came from her stomach instead of just her mouth. Sarah visited twice a week, helping Maya with the guardianship paperwork, walking her through what life might look like once everything settled with Victor's case moving through the courts. She never rushed Maya. She never made her feel like a problem to be solved. She just sat with her, patient and steady, answering every question twice if she had to. One evening, after Eli had been fed and rocked to sleep in Jack's arms, Maya sat down across from him on an overturned crate near the shop's old wood stove. The garage was quiet, except for the soft creak of the metal roof settling in the cool night air. "Jack," she said, "can I tell you something?" He looked up from Eli's sleeping face. "Yeah, course." "I used to think family was just people you were born with," Maya said slowly. "People who were supposed to love you no matter what, even if they didn't act like it." She looked around at the garage, at the tools and the motorcycles, and the mismatched blankets Bear had brought from his own house. "But I don't feel alone anymore. Not since you found us. This feels like a real family. Maybe more than I ever had before." Jack sat still for a long moment, feeling something tighten in his chest. He looked down at Eli's small, peaceful face, then back up at Maya. "I don't know if I'm the kind of man who deserves to be somebody's family," he admitted quietly. "I've made a lot of mistakes, Maya. Lost people I should have protected. Maybe that's exactly why you deserve it," Maya said softly. The call came on a Wednesday morning. Sarah's phone rang while she sat at the workbench with Maya, going over a stack of guardianship forms. She answered it, and Maya watched her face change, watched the tired lines around her eyes soften into something bright and hopeful. "That was the hospital," Sarah said, setting the phone down carefully, like it was something precious. "They have a date. Eli's surgery is scheduled for next Thursday." For a moment, Maya could not speak. Her throat felt tight, like all the fear she had been holding for weeks was finally cracking open. "Next Thursday," she repeated. "That's real. That's actually happening." "It's happening," Sarah said, smiling now. "Dr. Patel says his heart looks strong enough. His weight is good. Everything lines up." Maya put her hands over her face and started crying. But it was the good kind of crying, the kind that came from relief instead of fear. Jack heard the news from across the garage and set down the wrench he had been holding. He walked over slowly, like he did not quite believe it either. "Say that again," he said. "Thursday," Maya said, wiping her eyes. "He's getting his surgery Thursday." Jack let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. He put a hand on Maya's shoulder, and for once, he did not try to hide the emotion on his face. Word spread through the shop fast. By that afternoon, every biker who came through the garage doors knew the news, and every single one of them showed up with something in his hands. Bear brought a small, stuffed bear, worn soft at the edges, the kind you could tell had been loved by someone once. "Had this since my own boy was little," he said, setting it gently in the crib. "Figured it was time it found a new kid to look after." Cutter brought a tiny leather vest, cut down to baby size, with a small patch stitched on the back that read, "Little Brother." "Made it myself," he said proudly, holding it up for Maya to see. "Kid's gonna be riding with us one day. Might as well look the part." Diesel showed up with a soft blue blanket, thick and warm, and a card signed by half the club, each man scrawling his own message in messy handwriting. "Get well soon, little man. You got a whole crew rooting for you. We're your family now, kid." Maya sat on the floor of the shop that evening, surrounded by gifts, holding the card against her chest. "I don't understand," she said quietly, looking up at Jack. "Why are they doing all this? They barely know him." Jack sat down next to her, his knees cracking the way they always did now. "Don't matter if they know him long," he said. "They know he's family. That's enough for these guys." The week that followed was a blur of appointments and paperwork, and long nights where Maya could not sleep, worrying about what Thursday would bring. Jack noticed the dark circles under her eyes, the way her hands shook sometimes when she held Eli. "You need rest," he told her one night, taking Eli gently from her arms. "I got him. Go lay down." "I can't," Maya said. "What if something happens? What if I'm not there?" "I'll be right here," Jack said. "All night if I have to. You go rest. Trust me." Maya hesitated, then nodded, too exhausted to argue. She went to the small cot Rebecca had set up in the back room and finally, for the first time in days, fell into a deep sleep. Jack sat alone in the quiet garage, Eli cradled against his chest. The baby's tiny chest rose and fell with each breath, steady despite the weak heart beating inside it. Jack looked down at him, at the small fingers curled against his shirt, at the soft sound of his breathing. He thought about all the nights he had spent alone in this garage after losing his wife and daughter, believing there was nothing left for him but grease and engines and silence. He thought about how certain he had been that he did not deserve softness anymore, that some men were meant to protect from a distance, and nothing closer than that. But looking down at Eli now, feeling the weight of him, the trust in the way he slept without fear, Jack felt something shift deep inside his chest. It was not guilt this time. It was something warmer, something he had not let himself feel in years. He imagined, just for a moment, what it might look like on the other side of Thursday. Eli growing stronger, Maya finishing school, the three of them, and Rebecca, and the whole loud, rough, gentle club, all still here, still together. Jack held Eli a little closer and let himself believe it. The knock on the shop door came late, after Maya had finally drifted off again, and the garage lights had been dimmed to a low amber glow. Jack opened it to find Sarah standing there, her coat still buttoned against the cold, her phone clutched tight in her hand. "I got a call from Detective Reyes," she said, stepping inside. "They found enough evidence to move on Victor. Financial records, wire transfers, the intimidation charges Tyler gave them. They're getting a warrant tonight." Jack felt something loosen in his chest, a knot he had been carrying for weeks. "Tonight," he repeated. "So it's over." "Almost," Sarah said. "They want to make the arrest clean. No warning. They're waiting on the judge to sign off, but Reyes said it should happen before morning." Jack rubbed a hand over his face, feeling the weight of the last few weeks catching up to him all at once. He looked toward the back room where Maya slept, Eli's crib pushed close beside her cot. "Don't wake her yet," he said. "Let her sleep. Tomorrow's a big day for that boy. She needs whatever rest she can get." Sarah nodded and left quietly, promising to call the second she heard anything more. Jack sat back down at the workbench, but sleep would not come for him either. He kept glancing at the crib, at Eli's small chest rising and falling, at the calendar tacked to the wall with Thursday circled in red marker. Tomorrow. Surgery day. The day everything was supposed to finally go right. Maya woke a little after midnight, her body sensing something had changed even before her mind caught up. She found Jack still sitting at the workbench, and when he told her the news, her face broke into the first real smile he had seen from her in days. "They're going to arrest him," she said, like she was testing the words to see if they were true. "It's actually going to be over." "Looks that way," Jack said, though something in his gut refused to fully relax. Maya hugged the backpack against her chest, the one that held Eli's medical records, the bank information, everything her mother had left behind. She had started keeping it close again ever since the threats began, never letting it out of her sight. "I should call Rebecca," she said. "Tell her the surgery's still on for tomorrow. Tell her it's all finally over." She stepped outside into the cool night air to get better signal. The phone pressed to her ear, the backpack slung over one shoulder. The garage lot was quiet, lit only by a single flickering street lamp at its edge. She never saw Victor coming. He grabbed her from behind, one arm locking around her throat, his other hand snatching the backpack before she could even scream. Maya twisted and kicked, but he was too strong, dragging her toward a car parked in the shadows at the far end of the lot. "Where is it?" Victor hissed against her ear. "The evidence. Tell me now, or I swear to God, Maya." "Let me go!" she screamed, the sound finally cutting through the night. Jack heard it from inside the garage and was moving before he even finished standing. He burst through the door with Bear and Cutter right behind him, the three of them sprinting across the lot toward the sound of Maya's voice. Victor saw them coming and panicked, shoving Maya hard against the side of his car. She stumbled, and the backpack slipped from her shoulder, catching under the tire as Victor scrambled into the driver's seat. "Maya!" Jack shouted, closing the distance fast. Victor slammed the car into reverse, tires screeching against the pavement. The backpack, still tangled beneath the wheel, was dragged and crushed as the car peeled backward, papers and documents spilling out across the asphalt, torn and scattered in the dark. Jack reached Maya just as she fell to her knees, and he pulled her back from the car as it lurched forward again, swerving hard around them before speeding off into the night, taillights disappearing down the road. Bear ran toward where the backpack lay, but it was already ruined, torn open and flattened, papers soaked through with oil from the pavement. Cutter knelt beside it, gathering what pieces he could, his face grim in the dim light. Maya knelt on the cold ground, shaking, staring at the ruined papers scattered around her feet, her hands trembling as she realized what had just been destroyed. The morning came in gray and flat. No sunshine, just a dull light through the hospital windows that made everything look tired. Maya sat in a plastic chair in the hallway outside the surgery wing, her knees pulled up to her chest, the same way she used to sit when she was small and scared and had nowhere else to put her hands. Dr. Alvarez came out first. She was a kind woman with silver streaks in her hair, and she had been gentle with Maya from the very first appointment. But today her face carried a different kind of gentleness, the kind that came before bad news. "Maya," she said, crouching down so they were eye level. "I need to explain something to you." Maya's stomach dropped before the woman even finished the sentence. "The surgical team needs Eli's full medical history before they operate. His heart condition is delicate, and there are details in those records, dosages, past reactions, things only written down in that paperwork that the surgeons need in order to do this safely. Without them, we are operating blind. I cannot let that happen to your brother." "But the surgery," Maya said, her voice cracking. "It was supposed to be today. You said today." "I know," Dr. Alvarez said softly. "And I am so sorry. We have to delay it until we can find copies, or until the original clinic can send us what they have on file. I promise you, we are working on it right now, but it cannot happen this morning." Maya nodded, because there was nothing else to do, and the doctor squeezed her hand once before standing and walking back through the double doors, leaving Maya alone in the hallway with Jack. She did not cry right away. She just sat there, staring at the floor, her breathing shallow and fast like she was trying to hold something enormous inside her chest. "This is my fault," she finally said. "Maya, no." Jack sat down beside her, the plastic chair creaking under his weight. "It is." Her voice rose, cracking apart at the edges. "My mom gave me one job, Jack. Protect Eli, keep that backpack safe. And I let it slip off my shoulder. I let Victor grab me. If I had just stayed inside, if I had just waited to call Rebecca until morning, none of this would have happened." "You didn't let anything happen," Jack said. "Victor grabbed you from behind in the dark. There was nothing you could have done." "There's always something," Maya said, tears finally spilling over now, running down her face, fast, angry. "My mom trusted me. She wrote it all down and hid it and planned everything so Eli would be okay. And I lost it. I lost it in one night. She's gone, and I already failed her." Jack felt something twist hard in his chest, watching this girl, 17 years old, blaming herself for something no 17-year-old should ever have to carry. He had felt this same helplessness before, years ago, standing outside another hospital room, unable to change what had already happened. He reached over and took her hand, the way Dr. Alvarez had. except he didn't let go. "Listen to me," he said. "You didn't fail anybody. You have done everything right since the moment your mother passed, every single thing. This is Victor's fault, all of it, not yours." "But Eli," Maya whispered, "he needs this surgery. What if we can't find the papers in time? What if his heart—" She couldn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Jack stared at the double doors where Eli lay somewhere inside, small and fragile, his tiny chest working harder than it should have to. Jack had shielded this girl from a violent gang with his own body. He had lain in the dirt under a truck and dared anyone to come near her. But this was different. There was no fight he could win with his fists, no threat he could stare down. This was paperwork and time, and a system that did not care how much a person needed something to move faster. He felt the same powerlessness clawing up his throat that he remembered from years ago, the feeling of standing outside a door and being unable to do a single thing to change what was happening on the other side of it. But he pushed it down, because Maya needed him steady right now, not broken. "We are not giving up," he said, and he meant it with everything he had left in him. "Sarah is already calling every clinic your mother ever took Eli to. Rebecca's on the phone with the hospital records department right now. Bear and Cutter are out looking for anything that survived from that backpack. We are not done fighting for this baby, not by a long shot." Sarah found them an hour later in the small family room down the hall, the one with the scratchy couch and the coffee table covered in old magazines nobody ever read. She was carrying a cardboard box, the kind used for evidence, and her face had the careful look of someone trying not to promise too much. "Bear found the backpack," she said. "What's left of it anyway? It was thrown near the truck yard fence. It's torn up pretty bad, but I thought we should go through it together. Sometimes things survive that you wouldn't expect." Maya stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. "Can I see it?" "That's why I brought it to you." They set the box down on the coffee table, and Sarah lifted the backpack out. Maya's breath caught. It looked nothing like she remembered. The bright blue canvas her mother had picked out was ripped along one whole side, the zipper torn clean off its track, mud caked into every seam. It looked like it had been dragged across gravel, because it had been. "Okay," Sarah said gently. "Let's take our time, every pocket, every seam. We are not rushing this." Maya nodded, but her hands were shaking as she reached for the main compartment. Jack stood behind her, close enough that she could feel he was there, but he didn't crowd her. He let her do this herself. The first things she pulled out were ruined. A stack of papers so soaked and smeared with mud that the ink had bled into gray smudges. Unreadable. Maya's chest tightened as she set them aside, one by one, hoping each new page would be the one that mattered, and watching that hope die every time. "These were the medical papers," she said quietly. "I know they were. I remember the folder." "Keep looking," Sarah said. "Don't give up yet." Maya dug deeper. A small stuffed rabbit, one of Eli's, still smelling faintly of baby powder despite the dirt. A bottle, cracked but intact. A change of clothes, soaked through. Maya held each item like it was made of glass, running her fingers over the fabric, remembering her mother packing this very bag weeks ago, humming while she folded onesies and tucked in diapers, never once explaining why she was so careful about it, so precise. "There has to be something," Maya whispered. She was too careful for there not to be something. She flipped the backpack over, running her hand along the outside, feeling for anything. A shape, a lump, a seam that didn't sit right. Nothing. "Maybe it's gone," she said, and her voice cracked on the last word. "Maybe Victor already took it before he threw the bag away." "Wait," Jack said suddenly. He had crouched down and was looking at the bottom of the bag, where a strip of stitching ran along the interior lining. It looked like it belonged there, like it was part of the bag's original design. But something about it caught his eye. The stitching was newer than the rest of the fabric. Slightly different thread, slightly different color. "Maya," he said. "Look at this." Maya knelt down beside him and ran her fingers along the seam. Her breath caught again, this time different. "This isn't factory stitching," she said. "This is hand-sewn." Her mother used to sew. She remembered now, watching her at the kitchen table some nights, a needle and thread in her hands, patching up old clothes because they couldn't afford new ones. This same careful, tight stitch. She would know it anywhere. "Sarah, do you have scissors or something sharp?" Sarah pulled a small pair of medical scissors from her bag without a word, and Maya took them with trembling hands. She cut along the seam slowly, carefully, her mother's careful stitches falling away one at a time until a hidden compartment opened beneath the lining, flat and secret, built into the very structure of the bag. Inside was a plastic sleeve, sealed tight against the moisture that had ruined everything else. Maya pulled it out and stared at what was inside. A folder of papers, dry and untouched. A second copy of Eli's medical records, complete, with dosages and history and everything the surgeons needed. Beneath that, a thin stack of documents with numbers and account names Maya didn't fully understand yet. But that made Sarah go very still and quiet when she saw them. And beneath that, folded twice, a single envelope with Maya's name written across the front in her mother's handwriting. Maya's hands trembled as she held the envelope. The paper was soft at the edges, like her mother had touched it many times before sealing it. She traced her own name with one finger, the loops and lines so familiar it made her chest ache. "You don't have to read it now," Sarah said softly. "You can wait. There's no rush." But Maya shook her head. "No. I need to know what she wanted to tell me." Jack said nothing. He just moved a little closer, close enough that Maya could feel the steady warmth of him beside her, like a wall against the wind. Maya slid her finger under the flap and opened it carefully, like the paper might crumble if she moved too fast. Inside was a single folded page, the handwriting a little shaky in places, like her mother had written it while she was tired, or scared, or both. Maya took a breath and began to read out loud, her voice barely above a whisper at first. "My sweet Maya, if you are reading this, it means I was right to be afraid. It means Victor came looking for what he thinks belongs to him, and you had to be brave in a way no 17-year-old should ever have to be." Her voice caught. Sarah reached out and touched her shoulder, just to let her know she didn't have to stop. Maya kept going. "I loved Victor once, a long time ago before you were old enough to remember him clearly. I thought he had changed. I was wrong. When I got sick, I saw the way he looked at the money I was saving for Eli's surgery. I saw greed where there should have been love. So I made a plan. I always make a plan, don't I?" A small, broken laugh escaped Maya's lips. She could almost hear her mother saying it, that same tired, teasing tone she used when things got hard. "I hid a copy of everything Eli needs. The records, the accounts, the proof of what Victor has done and what he might try to do. I did this because I know you, Maya. I know you will try to carry this alone. You always do. You think you have to be strong every single second, that if you stop even once, everything will fall apart." Maya's eyes filled with tears. She kept reading, her voice shaking now. "But baby, you don't have to carry it all by yourself. There are good people in this world. I have seen them, even in small moments, even in the middle of hard times. When you find them, let them help you. Trust them. Family is not always the people we are born to. Sometimes it is the people who choose us, who stand beside us when things get difficult, who protect us without asking for anything back." Maya stopped. Her hands were shaking so hard the paper rattled. "I do not know who will be standing beside you when you read this letter, but if someone is there, someone who has shown you kindness, someone who has protected you and your brother, hold on to them. Let them in. You do not have to do this alone anymore." Maya lowered the letter into her lap. Tears streamed down her face, but she wasn't sobbing. It was quieter than that, deeper than that. It was like something inside her chest had finally been allowed to rest. "She knew," Maya whispered. "She knew Victor might come after us. She knew I would try to do everything by myself. She was still protecting us, even after she was gone." Sarah wiped her own eyes and squeezed Maya's hand. "Your mother loved you both so much." Maya turned to look at Jack. His eyes were wet too, though he didn't say anything about it. He just looked at her, steady and calm, the way he always did. "She was talking about you," Maya said. "She didn't know you, but somehow she was talking about you." Jack's throat worked before he spoke. "Your mother was a smart woman. She knew there would be someone. She just didn't know it would be an old biker with grease under his fingernails." Maya let out a small laugh through her tears. "You're not alone anymore, Maya," Jack said, his voice low and sure. "Not with Eli. Not with any of this. You've got Sarah. You've got the club. You've got me. We're not going anywhere." Maya nodded, holding the letter against her chest like it was the most precious thing she owned, because it was. Tyler Brooks sat on the edge of his bed in the small apartment he rented above a laundromat, staring at his phone. The screen glowed with a phone number he had looked up an hour ago and still hadn't called. His hands were sweating. He wiped them on his jeans and looked at the folder sitting beside him. Inside that folder was everything. Bank statements with Victor's name on them. Text messages where Victor told the gang exactly what to say to scare Maya. A recording Tyler had made weeks ago, back when he thought he might need it to protect himself if things ever went wrong. He never imagined he would use it to protect someone else. He thought about his little sister, Emma. She was 10 now, but Tyler still remembered the day at the community pool 3 years ago when she went under the water and didn't come back up right away. He remembered the panic, the screaming, the way his own legs had frozen like concrete. He remembered a girl, just a kid herself back then, diving in without even thinking twice and pulling Emma out, pushing water from her lungs, staying with her until she coughed and cried and breathed again. That girl was Maya. Tyler had never told her he remembered. He never told anyone. And when Victor handed him a photo of Maya a few weeks ago and said, "Find her, scare her, get her to give up the money," Tyler had felt something twist in his stomach. He told himself it was just a job. He told himself it didn't matter who she was. But it did matter. It mattered more than anything. He picked up the folder and held it in both hands, feeling the weight of it, feeling the weight of everything he had done wrong. If he turned this in, Victor would know it was him. Victor had people everywhere. Tyler could get hurt. He could get worse than hurt. His mother would find out what he had been mixed up in. Emma would find out her brother had been chasing the girl who saved her life. But if he didn't turn it in, Maya could lose everything. Eli could lose his chance at surgery, and Victor would keep hurting people again and again because nobody would ever stop him. Tyler thought about Jack Mercer's voice from the night they had spoken outside the repair shop. Jack hadn't yelled at him. He hadn't even looked angry, not really. He had just looked at Tyler like he could see straight through him, like he already knew Tyler was carrying something heavy. "Doing the right thing is never going to feel easy," Jack had said. "But it's still the right thing." Tyler stood up. His legs felt shaky, but his mind was clear now, clearer than it had been in weeks. He grabbed his jacket, tucked the folder under his arm, and walked out the door before he could talk himself out of it. The drive to the police station felt like it took both forever and no time at all. His hand stayed tight on the steering wheel the whole way. When he parked outside the station, he sat there for a moment, staring at the glass doors, listening to his own heartbeat pound in his ears. He thought of Maya's face the day she pulled Emma from the pool. She hadn't hesitated. Not for 1 second. Tyler wasn't going to hesitate either. He walked inside, the folder gripped tightly against his chest, and asked to speak with the detective handling the case against Victor Hale. His voice cracked a little when he said Victor's name, but he kept talking. He told them everything. The threats, the messages, the plan to steal Eli's medical fund. He placed the folder on the table and slid it across to the detective, his hands trembling but steady enough to let go of it completely. "This is everything," Tyler said. "This proves what he did. This proves he's the one behind all of it." The detective looked through the documents, his expression shifting from careful interest to serious focus. "This is exactly what we needed," the detective said. "This gives us enough to move on him. We can make the arrest." Tyler let out a breath he felt like he had been holding for weeks. It didn't erase what he had done. But for the first time in a long time, he felt like he had done something right. The morning sun came through the repair shop windows in thin gold lines. Maya sat on an old couch that smelled like motor oil and coffee, her knees pulled up to her chest, watching Jack pace back and forth with his phone pressed to his ear. "Yeah," he said. "Yeah, I understand. We'll be there." He hung up and looked at her. His face was hard to read, the way it always was, but his eyes were softer than usual. "They got him," Jack said. "Victor. Police picked him up an hour ago." Maya's whole body went still. For a second, she couldn't breathe right. She had imagined this moment so many times, lying awake on the cot in the back room, listening for footsteps that never came. She had imagined feeling relief. Instead, she just felt numb, like her body didn't know how to believe it yet. "How?" she managed to ask. "Tyler," Jack said. He gave them everything. Bank records, texts, a recording of Victor telling the gang what to do. Combined with the letter your mom left and the financial papers Sarah found, the police had enough to move today. Maya thought of Tyler's face the night he had come to the shop, scared and shaking, telling her he was sorry before he even explained why. She hadn't understood it then. Now she did. Sarah Whitmore arrived not long after, her car pulling into the gravel lot outside. She came in with a folder of her own, official papers with stamps and signatures, and a look on her face that told Maya this was really happening. "They're processing him now," Sarah said gently. "I know you probably have 100 feelings right now. That's normal. You don't have to sort them out today." But Maya wanted to see it. She needed to see it with her own eyes. Needed proof that the man who had haunted her nights for weeks was actually behind bars, and not somewhere out in the dark, waiting. Sarah understood. She made a call, and within the hour, Maya stood outside the police station with Jack beside her, his arms crossed, his leather vest catching the morning light. Through the station's front window, Maya watched 2 officers walk Victor Hale toward a patrol car, his hands cuffed behind his back. He looked smaller than she remembered. Weeks ago, he had seemed like a shadow that could swallow her whole. Now, in handcuffs, blinking in the sunlight, he just looked like a man, a tired, angry man who had lost. Victor's eyes found her across the parking lot. For one long second, they stared at each other. Maya felt her chest tighten, waiting for the fear to come rushing back like it always had. It didn't come. Instead, she felt something else, something steady, something that felt almost like peace. Victor looked away first. The officer guided him into the car, and the door shut with a heavy sound that echoed across the lot. Maya watched the car pull away until it turned a corner and disappeared. "It's over," she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. "It's over," Jack said, standing beside her. "You did that? You and Tyler and your mom, all of you." Maya wiped her eyes, surprised to find tears there. She hadn't realized she was crying. They drove back to the shop in silence, but it was a different kind of silence than before. Not heavy, not scared, just quiet, like the whole world had let out a breath it had been holding. When they walked back inside, Jack's phone rang again. This time, Maya watched his face change as he listened, watched the corner of his mouth lift into something close to a smile. "That was the hospital?" he said, lowering the phone. "The new paperwork Sarah found, the backup copy your mom hid, it's enough. They're moving forward. Eli's surgery is scheduled for tomorrow morning." Maya's legs almost gave out. She grabbed the edge of the workbench to steady herself, tears coming faster now, but good tears this time, the kind that didn't hurt. "He's going to be okay," she said. "He's really going to be okay." "He's going to be okay," Jack repeated. Maya looked up at him, this big, rough man who had appeared out of nowhere on the worst night of her life, and had never once left her alone since. "Thank you," she said, her voice breaking, "for not walking away, for staying, even when you didn't have to." Jack didn't say anything right away. He just placed a steady hand on her shoulder, the same way he had that first night under the truck, and nodded like he understood everything she couldn't put into words. The hospital waiting room smelled like hand sanitizer and old coffee. Nothing like the shop, but Maya found herself sitting in a plastic chair with Jack right beside her, and for some reason, that made it feel a little less scary. It was 6 a.m. Outside the windows, the sky was still gray, the sun not quite up yet. Maya had barely slept. She had spent most of the night sitting by Eli's crib, in the room the hospital had given them, watching his small chest rise and fall, counting every breath like she could somehow store them up for later. Now Eli was gone, wheeled away through 2 big double doors an hour ago, and Maya felt like a piece of her had gone with him. "You should eat something," Sarah said, holding out a granola bar she had bought from the vending machine. Maya shook her head. Her stomach was in knots. She didn't think she could keep anything down, even if she tried. The doors of the waiting room swung open, and Maya looked up fast, her heart jumping. But it wasn't a doctor. It was 3 of Jack's motorcycle club brothers, still in their leather vests, looking out of place among the pastel walls and soft chairs of the hospital. Big Rico, the one who had built Eli's crib with his own hands, walked in carrying a stuffed bear almost as big as Maya. Denny came in behind him with a thermos of coffee, and Walt, the oldest of them, just nodded at Jack and took a seat like he planned on staying as long as it took. "You didn't have to come," Maya said, her voice thick. "Course we did," Rico said, setting the bear on the chair beside her like it was standing guard. "Kid's family." Maya looked at him, this huge man with tattoos running up his arms and a beard down to his chest, and felt her eyes fill up again. She had cried so much these past few weeks. She didn't think she had any tears left, but somehow there were always more. The minutes crawled by like hours. Jack sat with his elbows on his knees, staring at the doors like he could will them open through sheer stubbornness. Maya knew he was scared too, even though he hadn't said so. She could see it in the way his jaw was tight, the way his hands kept opening and closing like he needed something to hold on to. She reached over and took his hand. Jack looked at her, surprised, but he didn't pull away. He held on tight. "He's strong," Jack said quietly. Just like his sister. An hour passed. Then another. Sarah made calls, checked in with the nurses, brought back small updates that didn't really tell them anything but made the waiting feel less empty. The bikers took turns pacing, getting coffee, sitting back down. Nobody left. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, the double doors opened again. A tall woman in blue scrubs walked out, her mask pulled down around her neck, her eyes tired but calm. Maya recognized her. Dr. Patel. The surgeon who had explained everything to her the night before, who had held Maya's hands and promised she would do everything she could. Maya shot up out of her chair so fast the stuffed bear tumbled to the floor. Jack stood right behind her, his hand still holding hers. Dr. Patel smiled, a real smile, warm and tired and full of relief. "The surgery went well," she said. "Better than well. Eli did great. His heart is repaired, and his vitals are strong. He's in recovery now, and if everything continues like this, he's going to make a full recovery." For a second, Maya couldn't move. The words didn't feel real. She had waited so long to hear something good, she almost didn't know how to believe it. Then it hit her all at once, and she burst into tears, the kind that came from somewhere deep in her chest, the kind she couldn't stop even if she tried. She grabbed onto Jack, burying her face against his leather vest, and he wrapped his arms around her without hesitation. Behind them, Rico let out a whoop that echoed down the hallway, and Denny clapped Walt on the back, and Sarah pressed a hand to her mouth, her eyes shining. Jack held Maya tight, feeling her shake with relief against him, and looking around at the people crowded into that small waiting room, bikers and a social worker and a scared brave girl who had become like his own daughter. Something inside him settled into place. He had spent years believing he didn't deserve a family. Standing there, holding on to Maya while she cried tears of joy, surrounded by people who had shown up for a baby they barely knew just because it mattered, Jack finally understood. He already had one. 3 weeks after the surgery, Eli came home. Not to the shop this time, but to a real house, one with a yellow kitchen and a porch swing, and a room that used to be a sewing room, but was now painted soft green for a baby who was just starting to get his color back. The house belonged to Rebecca Mercer, Jack's sister. Maya had met her twice before, but she hadn't known what to make of her. Rebecca had Jack's same steady eyes, but where Jack was all leather and quiet toughness, Rebecca was soft cardigans and warm bread baking in the oven. She had lost her husband 4 years back, some kind of accident Maya didn't ask about, and she lived alone in a house that Maya thought seemed too big and too quiet for just one person. "There's room here," Rebecca had told her, sitting across from Maya and Sarah at the kitchen table one afternoon, while Eli slept in his carrier nearby. "Room for you both, if you want it." Maya hadn't known what to say. She had spent so many months thinking about how to survive, how to keep Eli fed and safe and hidden, that she had forgotten what it felt like to be offered something simple. Something like a room with a bed and a door that locked from the inside. Not because she was afraid, but because it was hers. Sarah helped with all of it, the guardianship papers, the meetings with the judge, the forms that asked questions Maya didn't always understand. Sarah sat beside her through every appointment, explaining things in plain words, squeezing her hand under the table when the room got too quiet, and Maya's throat got too tight to speak. "You're not losing anything," Sarah told her one night, driving her back to the shop after a long day at the courthouse. "You're gaining people who want to help carry this. That's all this is." Maya wanted to believe her. Some days it was easier than others. She started therapy, a woman named Dr. Reyes, who had a soft voice and an office full of plants. Maya didn't talk much the first few sessions. She just sat there, picking at the frayed edge of her sleeve, until one day the words came pouring out and she couldn't stop them. She talked about her mother, about the yard, about Jack's arms pulling her under the truck like she weighed nothing at all. She started sleeping through the night again. Not every night, but some. She went back to school, too, catching up on the work she'd missed, sitting in a classroom that felt strange and normal at the same time. She was still Maya, still the girl who could take apart a small engine because Rico had taught her, who knew how to swaddle a baby tight because she'd had no other choice. But she was becoming someone else, too. Someone who let people help her. The day she moved into Rebecca's house, the sky was clear and blue, no gray clouds, no storm. Jack helped carry boxes up the stairs, most of them light, since Maya didn't have much. A few clothes, some pictures of her mother, the stuffed bear Racco had given her at the hospital, worn soft now from all the hugging. Eli's crib went into the green room, right beside Maya's bed. Rebecca had insisted on that. No separate rooms. Not yet. Not until Maya felt ready. When the last box was carried in, Jack stood in the doorway of Maya's new room, looking a little lost, like he didn't know if he should stay or go. Maya walked over to him. "You're not disappearing, right?" she asked, and there was something small and scared in her voice, something that reminded Jack of the girl he'd found running for her life in that truck yard. Jack crouched down so he was eye level with her, the way he used to do with Eli. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "Not now, not ever. You and Eli, you're my family. That doesn't change because you've got a new address." Maya nodded, blinking fast. "I'll be at the shop most days," Jack added, "and Rebecca's got my number on speed dial. You call, I come. Simple as that." Maya threw her arms around him, and Jack held her tight, the same way he had in the hospital, like he would never let go if he didn't have to. Spring came slow that year, but when it finally arrived, it seemed to bring the whole town with it. The shop looked different now. Same rusty sign out front, same smell of oil and metal, same row of motorcycles gleaming under the lights. But there was a bench out front now, painted bright blue, where people sat and waited. And there was a cork board nailed to the wall by the door, covered in flyers and thank you notes and photographs of kids who had come through those doors needing something more than a tune-up. It started small. A woman named Denise showed up one afternoon, her car broken down, her toddler crying in the back seat, and no money to pay for the repair. Jack fixed it anyway. Didn't even think twice. Word got around. Then came a man named Frank, who had lost his job and needed his truck running so he could get to interviews. Then a family whose furnace broke in December, and somehow, through some chain of favors and phone calls, Jack's club had a truck full of blankets and a space heater at their door by nightfall. Nobody planned it. It just happened, the way good things sometimes do when the right people are paying attention. The bikers who used to make people cross the street now had kids running up to them at the gas station, asking about their motorcycles. Mothers who once clutched their purses tighter when the club rode by now waved from their porches. The town paper even ran a story. A picture of Jack standing in front of the shop with his arms crossed, looking uncomfortable in front of the camera. The headline reading, "Angels in Leather, Local Bikers Redefine Community Support." Jack hated that headline, said it made him sound like a superhero. Rico told him to get over it and framed a copy anyway, hung it right by the corkboard. Rebecca started bringing in casseroles for families who needed a hot meal. Sarah referred people to the shop when the system had nowhere else to send them. Even Dr. Reyes mentioned it once, told Maya that Jack's shop had become something like a lighthouse for people who felt lost. Maya heard about all of it from her new room in Rebecca's house, but she liked seeing it for herself even more. Every few weeks, she'd catch a ride over, sometimes with Rebecca, sometimes on her own now that she'd gotten her permit, and she'd walk through those familiar doors like she was coming home. That was where she was headed now. On a warm Saturday afternoon, Eli balanced on her hip, his chubby fingers gripping the collar of her shirt. He was different now. Not the fragile, blue-lipped baby who had needed rescuing more than once. He was round-cheeked and heavy, babbling nonsense sounds and reaching for anything shiny that caught his eye. His heart, the one that had almost stopped so many times before the surgery, now beat strong and steady inside his little chest. The doctors called it a full recovery. Maya called it a miracle. She pushed open the shop door, and the bell above it jingled the same way it always had. "Look who it is!" Rico called out from across the garage, wiping grease off his hands with a rag. "Little man's getting big." Maya smiled, walking further inside, scanning the shop until she found who she was looking for. Jack was bent over an engine near the back, sleeves rolled up, same as always. But when he heard her voice, he straightened up, and the moment he saw Eli, something in his face softened in a way that still caught Maya off guard sometimes. Like the toughest man she knew turned into someone else entirely whenever that baby was in the room. "Hey there," Jack said, walking over, wiping his hands on his jeans before reaching out. Maya handed Eli over without hesitation, the way she'd learned to trust these hands months ago. Hands that had once shielded her from danger, and now simply held the baby like he was something precious and rare. Eli giggled, grabbing at Jack's beard with both fists, and Jack laughed, a deep sound that filled the whole garage. "You've gotten heavy," Jack told him, lifting him up higher, studying his face like he was trying to memorize it all over again. "Strong, too, just like your sister." He looked over at Maya. Something proud and warm settled behind his eyes. "You did good," he said. "Both of you did good." The gymnasium smelled like fresh paint and floor wax, and folding chairs stretched in rows all the way to the back wall. Maya sat near the front, her blue graduation gown too warm under the lights, her heart pounding harder than she expected. She had imagined this day 100 times back when things were bad. Back when she was running through the dark with Eli against her chest. She never let herself believe she would make it here. But she had. And now her name was next on the list. "Maya Carter." She stood up. Her legs felt shaky, but she walked across that stage like she had walked through everything else in her life. One careful step at a time. Somewhere in the crowd, she heard clapping that was louder than anyone else's. She didn't have to look to know who it was. Jack sat near the middle of the bleachers, wearing a button-up shirt instead of his usual leather vest, though he still looked uncomfortable in it, tugging at his collar every few minutes. Rebecca sat beside him, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, even though the ceremony had barely started. And on Jack's lap, dressed in a tiny collared shirt Rebecca had ironed twice that morning, sat Eli, clapping his chubby hands together, not understanding what was happening, but excited anyway because everyone around him was smiling. "That's my sister," Eli said loudly, pointing at the stage. A few people around them laughed. Jack just grinned and pulled him closer. After the ceremony, Maya found them in the crowd outside the gym, the afternoon sun warm on her shoulders. Eli ran toward her the second he saw her, his little legs carrying him as fast as they could go, and she scooped him up, gown and all, spinning him once before pulling him into a hug. "Did you see me?" she asked him. "I saw you," Eli said, though Maya was pretty sure he had been more interested in the cookies at the reception table. Jack walked up behind them his hands in his pockets, looking at Maya the way a proud father looks at a daughter who has become someone remarkable. "You did it," he said simply. Maya smiled. "We did it." That fall, Maya started taking classes at the community college, working toward a degree in social work. She wanted to help kids the way Sarah had helped her, kids who felt alone in the world, kids who needed someone to believe they were worth saving. She volunteered at the shop on weekends too, helping Rebecca organize donations, helping Jack keep track of the families who came through needing more than a repair. Eli grew taller every month, it seemed. He had Jack's stubbornness and Maya's determination. And somewhere in between, he had become the happiest kid anyone at the shop had ever met. He called Rico Uncle Rico now, and called every biker who walked through the door his friend, whether he had met them or not. His heart, the one doctors had once worried would never beat strong, thumped steady and sure inside a body that ran and jumped and laughed without stopping. One evening, after the shop had closed and the sun had dipped low behind the hills, Maya sat on the blue bench out front, watching Eli chase Rico's old dog across the gravel lot. Jack came out and sat beside her, handing her a bottle of water, settling into the quiet the way he always did after a long day. Maya thought back, the way she sometimes did, to that stormy night in the truck yard, the mud on her knees, the sound of her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. The moment Jack had pulled her and Eli beneath that trailer and covered them both with his body like nothing else mattered. She realized now, sitting here in the fading light, that Jack had not just saved them from the men chasing them that night. He had given them something bigger. He had given them a home, a family, a future neither of them would have found on their own. "Thank you," she said quietly, not for the first time, but meaning it more than ever. Jack just nodded, watching Eli laugh in the distance. "Don't need to thank me," he said. "You're the one who saved us. I hope you like this story. Please share what's your favorite part of the story, and where in the world you are watching from. Have a wonderful day."